Welcome friends to another r/malicious compliance video. As always, if you enjoy this video, please make sure to hit the subscribe button. And our first story of the day is by Evo11. Sure, I can hang around and help. Much like other posts, it's a story that was years ago and involves my foray into service management. I had been in my position at my location in a service management position and was consistently rated as the highest competent manager by my associates and had the highest client survey rating. Fact is, I just don't believe in treating coworkers like crap, even if they're a slave laborer, and when they need help, I'll help them, and if it's not right away, they know I'm doing so when I can. During my last year with the company, I received my annual service review and, frankly, I know it means nothing and I'm fully aware that no one ever gets a perfect score because that'd indicate you know everything and are unteachable, so who could truly be that right? Anyways, a mandatory part of finalizing the review process is signing off. My location's manager tells me to sign my review as she leaves to go home early to indicate that I've reviewed it and I can close the door to simply lock it. This is very normal and nothing anyone thinks about as far as the process, as we all do this. I go ahead inside and do it, but notice she left the screen on and I see my name on it for a quick second. I sign my name really quick, but decide to take a quick peek. The darn thing is that the monitor in her office is made to auto-lock after 5 minutes of no activity, and she must have assumed that it locked already, or forgotten to log off. I go in my review and see my scores and see my position is still the same. I do notice, however, that the keywords aggregated most commonly for my coworkers, such as great team player to mentor and assists with passion, is contrasted with her summary of me at this location, which is normally kept private and privy to her and our regional manager's eyes, as generally a big loner and doesn't communicate with others on the team and tends to ignore pleas and requests for assistance, needs to really place others before himself. Now I'm generally both pissed and surprised at this point and decide to simply walk out and think about what was stated. The next day, I show up for work and get asked to meet in her office. According to the same boss lady mentioned above, my distinctive positive scores and praise by my coworkers and peers have earned me the right to a promotion and begins to offer me the position immediately below her. Now I don't know what really went on in my head, but I blurt out something to the effect of, "Yeah, I can't. I'm actually leaving the company in 2 months." Far from the truth, but I suppose I was under the impression of my review still and made this giant lie to basically force myself to leave and just say screw it to myself. She's shocked and asks why I never told her I was job hunting, to which I reply, "Well, I was leaving in a few months when contracted, so I didn't want to say anything yet until you were settled in." She's shocked, I'm not, and she leaves for the day with mixed emotions. I have to set in stone which exact date I leave, and I do. It also turns out to be our inventory period, and I intentionally set my last date to the day after our inventory so I can help out my friends. During this time, I get 3 goodbye parties and meet the 2 folks who will replace me in my duties. Yes, they literally set themselves to hire 2 people to do my job. I tell them there's no hard feelings and such. Honestly, I wish them luck and advise them best as I can, because I know no one will take the time to teach them and I kind of pity them for that. On my official last day, the bossy lady has to work a day she's never worked in her entire 10 years with the company because that's my final day. In her agitation, she says to come in next week and she'll make sure I'm paid and to hand in my company provided items. You see, the problem is I can only hand them in to her, and her purpose of being there was to ensure that at the end of the day, she gets it and everything goes smoothly. So the malicious compliance follows. I ask when a good time is for her to receive them, and she says, "Whenever, and I'll pay you for the trip." And I go, "Okay." I honestly didn't think of anything much, and frankly thought this was the end of it anyways, as far as our work relationship goes. So I come in 10 days later and say hi to everyone and bring donuts. I ask for the boss lady and get annoyed to learn she isn't there and have to hand it to my replacement as was her instruction to him. He takes it and gives me a receipt, but I mention that she said to pay me for my travel too, which he states that he was made aware of that. He puts in my former time card slot a pay request for time traveled for me, and I leave. A full 2 months later, I'm talking to my friend and he casually mentions how they're still purging my info from the system. We laugh about this and I ask which system I'm still on and he replies, "The attendance system." I pause, then burst out laughing and ask why she's so freaked out by that. According to my friend, the problem was my last week was the end of the new period and why our inventory was shifted this year to correspond to it. But because my travel time was added to a new period, it made me automatically eligible for that quarter's bonus, and because my bonus is based on merit and position, it would be the second highest in the location. To add insult to injury and pour more salt on the wound, because I wasn't featured in the system as a full-time active employee, my bonus would be a penalty on her end and cause her to lose a percentage of her bonus in return. Sure enough, at the end of the period where I came in and dropped off my items for submission, I get my check for my bonus. In the end, I complied with all the requests fully and properly, but because of her improper assessment and inability to secure her monitor, I end up getting a free bonus check at her expense. I also ended up finding another job 2 weeks before I was slated to leave that was far less stressful, where I'd be assigned a full workday to finish tasks that I'd have 3 hours to finish in my prior job. None of this was ever planned, and it honestly felt amazing to discover one of the few times my gut instinct worked out. If you yourself were working at a place here, and you were doing all you could to assist your coworkers, and then you found out the manager above you is saying all these negative things about you and your work ethic, would that inspire you to automatically look for another job elsewhere? Let me know in the comments down below. This next story is by OnlyKangaroo4888. Want a curry? You got it. Years ago, I worked for a horrible boss. He would do things like ask me to rewrite my handwritten notes because he could not read my handwriting, and then chuck the newly written piece of paper straight in the bin. Other times he would forget to specify certain things and then blame me for not using my brain. For example, he would instruct me to contact everyone on this list who's in debt, and then berate me for contacting someone and informing them that they were in debt of negative 50 pence because it made him look stupid. The messages were signed in his name, not mine. He often asked me to get him lunch on my break, and then without asking me first if it was okay, he would call all the other staff members and ask them if they want anything brought in for lunch, and then instruct me to bring their items in too. One day, he wrote me a list of numerous people's orders, including his. I had to make 2 trips because I needed to get so much food, and I couldn't carry it all at once. When I got back to the office the first time, he asked for his food, and I told him that I was going back out to get it because I couldn't carry it all. He had a go at me about wasting time, reminded me that I only had X amount of time for my lunch break left, and told me, next time, get all the food in one go. Back at the cafe for the second time in 20 minutes, I ordered his usual curry, which he always ate with rice. When the chef asked me, just curry or curry and rice, I was about to reply curry and rice when I looked down at the paper that my boss had wrote and given to me. He usually wrote curry and rice, but this time he had just written curry. Cue malicious compliance. Just curry, please, I said with a smile. When I got back and gave my boss his food, he didn't talk to me for hours. He would constantly call the receptionist with things like, can you tell OP to do X, Y, and Z? Despite the fact that our desks were 2 meters apart and I was in earshot. He fired me shortly after when I called in sick with a migraine, due to me grinding my teeth at night due to the stress of the job. He told me that he's no longer accepting that as a sick day excuse and told me that if I don't go into work, I'm fired with immediate effect, meaning that I won't be required to work 2 weeks' notice. I didn't go in, and I'm in a much better job now. I've also stopped grinding my teeth. Honestly, for OP's teeth's sake, I'm glad they got fired. You only get 1 set of teeth unless you want to pay a pretty penny. Honestly, just for that reason alone, it's probably a good thing they got fired. Our next story is by DC Comics Superman. You want extra? Okay. So I work at Papa Murphy's, and we always get this one guy. We'll call him Dave. Dave comes once a week asking for a pepperoni and mushroom with extra pepperoni, and every time he gets the pizza, he complains about there not being enough pepperoni on the pizza. We tell them that the amounts double, and if he has a problem with the amount, he has to take it up with the owner of our store. Well, one day, we get a call from the owner. He tells us to have us tell Dave to just tell us when to stop putting on extra pepperoni, and then ring it up for however many extra servings it is, and not tell him we're ringing him up for extra. When he told us to stop, we had put on a total of around 300 pepperoni on a pizza that takes 50 normally. The look on his face when he found out that the pizza that's normally $10 was about $20 was priceless. I mean, to be fair, 300 pepperoni on a pizza and it's about $20? I don't know what's going on at this store, but the fast food chains around me, if I got 300 pepperonis on a pizza, I'd be paying like $50, if not even more. Oh, actually I just looked it up, and apparently Papa Murphy's is a take and bake place, meaning they give you a pizza with all the stuff, but they don't actually have ovens or anything, it's not actually cooked. You just pick it up and you cook it yourself. Still does sound cheap to me though. This next story is by Swimmer19, A Spotless Room. I'll spare you all the military jargon. Big inspection coming up, new boss trying to make an impression. We had a medical office that he needed to be spotless for this inspection to go well. We scrubbed floors, wiped the ceiling, we were on our hands and knees finding every speck of dust in this darn office. After about a week of doing this every day, and every day getting told that, still looks like crap, I finally asked what was needed to be done to meet his standards. He wasn't exactly a wordsmith, so, "Just get all this crap out of here," was my direct order. My coworkers and I proceeded to remove whiteboards, cleaning supplies, desks, even a standalone shelving unit. We gutted the place, everything that wasn't bolted to the floor, we threw in a nearby dumpster. Our lives became a living heck for about a month or two after what we did, but it was worth it to see the man's face when he saw how clean we finally made that office. I definitely get what they did here, but I do think putting all of it in a dumpster was probably going too far. I don't know if I in good conscience could throw whiteboards, cleaning supplies, desks, all that stuff in a dumpster just because it's maliciously complying to what they said. Just feels like you're throwing away a lot of someone else's money. And our final story of the day is by Spruce Goose 133, Just Following Orders. I used to work at GM, and we had an area behind a wall on the line that had hydraulic equipment, computer equipment, and a bunch of other things that would run the line. There was also a desk in there, a couple of chairs, and a bench. This area maintenance staff often went in to sit down, read over materials, do paperwork, and just wait for the next breakdown. Sometimes they would take breaks in there, so they're close by in order to quickly get to the next breakdown. Well, this day on first shift, they had just had a major breakdown that caused a couple hours of downtime. At that time, second shift maintenance was coming in and talking to first shift maintenance to get updates on the line when the superintendent walked in. Superintendent of the department came down to see what happened just before the end of the shift. The superintendent was mad that he had all this downtime to account for, and seeing the workers sitting there, he was ticked and started hollering at them. He said he didn't want to see any more desks, chairs, or benches anywhere around, and they were to cut them up and throw them into the trash. And when he came in tomorrow, he didn't want to see any more of that stuff. Like I said earlier, it was the end of the shift. The second shift maintenance workers went on to cut everything up, throw it away, and then went up to the break room, which is beside the foreman's and superintendent's offices, for a break. Seeing that there were more desks and chairs in the offices, he proceeded to cut them up in order to comply with the superintendent's orders. In our contract, if we're given a direct order, we must obey. Well, you can imagine next morning, superintendent showed up and there's no more foreman or superintendent desks or chairs to be seen. The superintendent went off and started threatening to fire him. Maintenance workers demanded to see his union rep, and when he showed up, he told the union rep that superintendent ordered them the day before to cut up all the desks and chairs he saw and throw them in the trash, and he was just following orders. Superintendent was steamed. Hopefully he learned to be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. Maybe they were having a bad day or something, maybe something upset them personally, but overall it doesn't excuse them for acting that way and kind of blowing up at these people, acting belligerent, acting rude. Nobody really needs that, and all it really resulted in was a bunch of cut up and discarded furniture. I think, more than anything, I'm kind of curious about some kind of contract thing here, where OP says if we're given a direct order, we must obey. So if the superintendent says, do a handstand, do you gotta just stop and try and pop off a handstand or something? I just want to know more about that. But with that being said, that's a wrap on another bunch of stories here today. As always, if you guys have any favorite videos of this bunch, let me know which one in the comments down below and why. And if you enjoyed the stories in general, if you could subscribe to this channel, it'd mean a lot to me. I make these videos daily, and it's by far and away the best way to support my channel. So no matter what you did, whether it was subscribing or liking, leaving a comment, I just appreciate the heck out of you guys. And as always, I'll be back tomorrow with even more stories right here on the Storytime channel.